All right, hello. I am Holly and I'm here with Laura. And we wanted to talk today about our new business that we are launching together, a little bit of the background of why we started this, how it came to be, and all that.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
We will get started today with just talking a little bit, like I said, about each of our backgrounds, how we found each other, and how this brainchild came to be birthed. Laura, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about your background and let's tell the story of how we met.
I love that plan. Okay, I am a Tulsa-based interior designer, and I was doing interior design for several years. In addition to that, working with women specifically who were coming out of different life events or working in group work. I have some training doing shadow work and helping women kind of doing like story work, like facilitating groups where women could come have a safe place to tell their story and where we could kind of facilitate conversations and processes to help them determine where they were stuck, kind of getting to some root cause emotional stuff. And just these worlds started colliding where I was working with clients and also using these tools that I had been given and was learning and being trained in, and was like, man, knowing that our home impacts the way that we feel and heal kind of birthed this idea of trauma-informed interior design, where I use my client's story to be the starting point, the launching point for interior design. And so I was doing that for several years. And then we walked through our own journey of mold loss, which that's in another episode. If you want to go listen to that story, it was pretty devastating, pretty catastrophic, and also helped me be more aware of what families are navigating. And so started my journey there on what it means to have a healthy home, and from nervous system to physical, emotional, spiritual, all of the above. And so that's kind of my very fast version background. And I was actually chatting with a friend a little over a year ago about this concept, and she had her sister-in-law and brother had just recently worked with a healthy homes realtor, and I thought, well, that is fascinating. So I did a little Google search and found you and started following along with what you were doing and knew we needed to know each other.
Wait, were they working with me or someone else?
You. Oh. They were working with you. It was hard.
I didn't know that part of the story. And then for me, I come from the health side. I was a practitioner. Well, even before then, I got started in holistic health when I was pregnant with my first son. So this was 2011-ish. And after that, I realized I wanted to parent a little bit differently, raise my children a little bit differently. So I started discovering this world of holistic health, which back then was still very new and fringe, and it was really hard to find. And so I didn't have a lot of resources. I started a nonprofit group in California called the Holistic Moms Network. It's a national organization, but I started the Orange County chapter. And it was there where I started meeting moms who are kind of also in the same boat, just wanting to parent differently and raise healthy children. And a lot of them had very similar stories of how they got into even discovering alternative health or holistic health. And it was either their own health crisis or the health crisis of a child, and they weren't getting answers from traditional medicine. And so they found alternative solutions. And so it's what we know now as functional medicine, but then it didn't really have a name. I think it was still called alternative medicine. And every time I would hear a story of someone new coming into the group, I just kept thinking to myself, there has to be another way. Like, why don't people know about this? Like, why can't we learn about these other ways to be healthy before we are having a health crisis?
Right.
So that is what put me into the whole holistic health mode. I was still working in corporate America, but as I went further and further down this rabbit hole, I realized, like, this is what I want to do. This is what I need to do. So I quit my job in the corporate world, I went back to school and became a nutritional therapy practitioner because in my mind, I thought nutrition was kind of the gateway drug to getting into holistic health because everybody needs to eat. And for the most part, people want to make good, healthy choices around food. So I thought that was a safe route. So I was in the practitioner role from 2019. Real estate came in because we moved from California to Oklahoma in 2021, and I used a holistic realtor. I knew her from California. The crunchy circle is very tight. We all kind of know each other, so I knew her there. I reached out to her for a realtor referral, and she had moved to Oklahoma, and she talked me into it and moved here. My practice would just transition to virtual because of COVID, and I didn't have a full practice when we moved, and so I asked her if she ever wanted to hire someone else because we're very like-minded. When we were moving, it was important to me that we found somewhere healthy and didn't want to be next to cell towers. We didn't want to be next to agriculture land that was doing crop dusting because we knew we wanted to be in the country. I knew that these things were important to me, and these were things that I wanted to take into consideration when looking for our place to homestead, because that's really what we wanted to do. And so it was a very natural fit. I got my license. I started working with Christina Capelli, and she was my first mentor in this space. And since then, I have gone on, and after I started working with her, that's when my health practice really started taking off online. And I was quickly at a full client load, and I was working with mostly women, and it was usually for hormones or weight loss, and those go hand in hand, a lot of perimenopause type of things. And at the root of those symptoms and issues that people were coming to me with kind of always ties back to something going on environmentally, and whether that's in your home, what you're exposed to in your building materials. Mostly it was with women, personal care products, cleaning products, the things that are affecting our endocrine system directly, that affect hormones, that affect weight gain, weight loss. And I was having more and more conversations about what's going on in your home. And as I was coaching more people around being aware of their environments and how that affects your body and what's going on. So yes, everything from hormones, but also I had clients with cancer and severe autoimmune diseases, but everything comes back to how your body is functioning at the cellular level and how it's processing the inputs that it's receiving, whether that's from your diet, nutrition, or whether it's from your external environments around you. So as I got deeper and deeper into that and was having more and more conversations around the environments, I realized this is an area that is not talked about. This is something that people really need to have an advocate and someone to service this area. And so it was at the end of 24 that I really leaned into that. And I've been doing real estate now full time ever since I closed my health practice. And so that's how I got here.
Yep.
And you and I met on Instagram.
Yeah, I finally reached out. I was like, hey, we should know each other.
Yeah. And I feel like we hit it off right away. With Laura, I think the thing that really drew me to her is that we are like-minded in the sense that we have both walked a mold journey and a health journey. And we have seen both sides of starting and not knowing what to do and having to figure things out on our own. We have that in common. And we have also done, I think, I might be wrong, you can correct me, extreme things where it was very fear-based and the pendulum swung very far to being rooted in fear and dramatic's not the right word, but just
making big life decisions from a place of panic, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then kind of now we both land in the middle. We're very balanced in terms of we have seen the extremes. We have walked the extremes, lived the extremes,
Yep.
and we have found clean homes. We have both found health and healing, and we have seen everything that kind of goes on in between that process. And I've seen it not only for myself, but also for dozens of clients that I walked through with it. And I feel like we both now can see things from a lens of there is not always one right or wrong answer.
That's right.
And there is not always one set distinctive starting point for each person. Like everything is so bio-individual, whether it comes from like how you're healing for your health or how you're addressing situations going on in your home.
That's right. Absolutely. I mean, similarly, like I was drawn to you for the same reason. I feel like our very first conversation, it was just, we were in agreement, so aligned. And I've also been someone who not only made decisions from a place of fear, but I've also experienced fear mongering from others and even fed into that myself. And then really quickly was like, hold up. This is not a way to live. I mean, outside of living in a bubble in the desert, I mean, we have to live our lives. And so knowing that I wanted to find healthy balance also helped me start bringing that into conversations with clients. And then in addition to that, once I knew what I knew, I couldn't just go in and help a client pick out paint colors and light fixtures and help the flow of their home be better, because now I'm seeing things and I'm understanding their story and they're talking about illness and I'm seeing water intrusions. And so it's like, I can't know what I know now and in good conscience help you pick out a paint color. And so this world kind of started colliding there as well. And so it was finding myself, I don't know whether these clients were kind of being drawn to me so that this path would kind of be paved for me, like if it was like the Lord opening this door, or if it's just now that you know what you know, your eyes are opened and you see things clearer and you see it more often. And so was also in a place when we met of starting to take on more clients that were having these issues, environmental issues in their homes. And so I just feel like from the beginning, us combining the gifts that we bring, it was just a natural fit. Like it just fell into place so quickly because there isn't another group out there that is doing it this way. And I know that this is what I needed. I needed moms who had walked it, who were going to look at it from every single angle and help me come up with an option that fit my family. I don't believe in, I actually am a pretty black and white thinker, to be honest, but in this world, there's just so much gray. There isn't, like you said, a cookie cutter option. And so really listening to families, hearing their story is really the only way, in my opinion, to start and to give them a strategy forward.
Yeah. So let's talk about like a little bit of like, who are the people that we help? What is a good client for someone needing our services?
Yes, let us discuss that.
Let's give an example.
Yeah, that's what
I think the best way to explain the type of people that would make good clients for us, or the people that would be seeking our services, the best way to share what that is to talk about clients we've already worked with.
That's great.
And share examples.
Yep. So I will give a few. You decide if these are good. I have had a client reach out to me, and she, I'll kind of give two ends of the spectrum here. I'll just give two examples of clients I've worked with recently. She was very hesitant, had done some research, had an understanding that mold could be an issue in her house, and her children were experiencing some symptoms, and also she had very little capacity financially to do much about it. And so I just want to pause right there and say I have so much compassion and so much understanding for that mom that is kind of this like little voice in the back of their head, like something's off, and I don't know that we can do anything about it. I lived there for a long time. And so this was one of those moms. And so I listened to her situation, and she says, we have mold around a window and it's visible. I can see it. And I know that I want it remediated properly. I want to have this window swapped out. I cannot test right now. I cannot take this to the full extreme, and so was able to walk her through what she could do with the funds that she had. And that was that project, and so I just held her in that, and we did what she could do to make the house a little bit better for her family. In addition to that, I had a client. It was actually an interior design client, and they did not seek me out for anything regarding healthy homes, but she did mention a few things in our consult that kind of alerted me to they may have an issue. She was aware of mold and what it can do to the health of the family, and indicated that might be a concern. And then I went to their house, and based on what they told me and the water intrusions they had, I knew that I would be such a disservice to move forward with this remodel because of the level of an issue that they had. And so for them, I did recommend moving forward with testing. And again, I say this from a place of awareness, not from a place of fear or shame, but their answer was they bulldozed their house. That was what they could do financially. That was what was best. And they did have a significant issue. And so all of that to say, this could be the mom that says, I have this much money and I have this much knowledge and I'm afraid to move forward, but I've got to do something, to the family that's ready to make a huge shift from bulldozing their house or moving. And then anywhere in between.
Okay, that's a good example. And for me, I'd say my experience in working in this capacity has primarily either been rooted strongly in the health side, working with clients that it came out working with them that they either had exposures in the past of living near toxic chemical sites or living in moldy homes, or they're currently living in homes with moisture and mold issues, or currently living in a home that is next to, I had one client that was living next to a field where it was crop dusted over her home, and the pilot would call and let her know, shut your windows, I'm spraying today. Like, she was getting doused with chemicals. So walking someone through that to working with clients that on the health side, we're not making progress, getting better, doing the protocols that I know work. And so we need to look deeper. We need to look what's going on in your home, and then walking them through. One particular client I'm thinking of, after a year of working together, she just kept having the same issue. And I was like, there is mold in your house somewhere. Like, you are getting, or not necessarily in your house, but you are getting an exposure somewhere. We need to find it. And so helping her go through testing and finding it. And it turned out it was in her home, and it was in a room where her son slept, and he was the sickest in the family, even though she had very extreme symptoms. Her son was the sickest, and it was walking her through how to get it properly tested. She did end up moving out of that home and finding another home. So that's one. And then also working with people who are currently living in a home and need to move, or living in a home. How do I support my body while I'm here? And I am not in a position to be able to go to a functional medicine doctor and do a full detox protocol. I'm not in a position to be able to move, or I'm a renter, or we just don't have the equity to be able to sell our house and move right now. Sometimes people can't move. And what pains me the most is what we see online with all the experts saying you can't heal in the environment that made you sick. And I know that that's really catchy and that looks great on an Instagram post. But while there may be some truth to that, I have also seen people heal and make progress in a home or an environment that is still contributing to their bucket, because there are other things that you can do. Right. There are so many things that you can do to meet you where you are. And I think, just to kind of circle back, the whole reason we created this is because there's so much information out there. We are not starved for information on how to do any of this stuff, but what's confusing is all the noise.
That's right.
And the advice that's out there might be good advice, but it might not be applicable to you. especially like where you are.
I mean, I think of like we were talking about this earlier, but it's like we self-diagnose all the time, right? Especially as moms, we're thinking, we're Googling, we're researching, what could I be sick with? What are my children sick with? And we're convinced that we know what it is. Imagine calling a doctor and saying, this is what we have. And the doctor just being like, okay, great. Here's the prescription for you. No, like a doctor is going to come in and be like, a good doctor anyway, is going to come
like, clarify this.
A good doctor. One you should be seeing is one that says, let's make an appointment. Give me all of the information. Like, let me help guide the process. Let me be the expert in listening and just knowing that what a good path forward would be. That is what we lose when we just get online. And when we just start looking at experts, we're taking general advice, and it may not inherently be bad. It just may not be what's good for this family. And so to have someone who's going to listen to your story, hear what's going on in your home, find out what your goals are with your house, with your finances, with the health, and tailoring a package and a path forward that's going to actually be something that gives you success, that doesn't come Googling at 3 a.m. in the morning. To me, and I lived that as well. That just brings so much more fear, which then we're, messing with the nervous system. And it's just this vicious cycle where healing maybe isn't possible with all of the fear and the shame swirling around. And so that is actually honestly a place where we start, is reducing a lot of that.
Yes. And just helping someone find clarity, but most importantly, letting someone know that they're not crazy,
right,
and they're not alone,
right,
because that is the one thing we hear over and over again, and we experienced ourselves, was am I crazy?
Yeah. Well, and you're not alone, you're not crazy, and there is hope.
Yes.
I mean, I think because we also are all a part of the groups where we know we're not alone, but we are in like the sinking ship with all these other people, and we're all going down together. And so there's that third piece of, this is not hopeless. There is an option for you. We just got to figure out what it is.
Yeah, and that's where the concierge part of the business comes in, is because Laura's been in Tulsa
Ever. Basically.
And I've been here a few years, and our work, mine in real estate and hers in design, while they are different, we have some great overlaps, and especially like with our backgrounds and our experiences, but also in the resources that we could recommend out to clients. Because a lot of times I'm getting questions, who do I use for remediation? Who do I use for mold testing? Who do I go and see to help me detox mold? We're out making those relationships, or we have those relationships. We have vetted the people, their processes, and we can make a really good referral while they're, and I'll just speak to me, like, I know that we have some incredible functional medicine doctors and practitioners here in Tulsa. I could name 10 off the top of my head. Not that one is better than the other. They are all different and have a little bit different things. So if there is someone who is sick and it's like, look, I've just moved out of mold and now I'm ready to detox it. Now I'm ready to work on my health. Who do I work with? I am not working in that capacity anymore, but I know who is.
Right.
And based on what that person is going through, what their budget is, what their goals are, I could then refer them to the best practitioner that I think would be for them. And then they can go and meet with them and decide.
Well, and that, like, to your point, we can make a recommendation. I'm going to use a little interior design analogy here, but I will often have someone say, hey, can you send me a few paint colors to use? No, because I have not been in your home. I don't know how much natural light you're getting. I don't know what this specific color that worked in this one house. I don't know how that's going to look in your house. I don't know what the rest of your home looks like and how it's going to be cohesive. And so people don't know, like, they're not being, I don't know. They're doing nothing wrong. They just don't understand that it's not that I'm gatekeeping. It's that I can't make a good recommendation without all of the information. And so I think that that's another piece of this, is we have these recommendations, but until we know your story, your budget, your needs, we can't actually make a good, solid recommendation. So this allows us an opportunity to come in, hear your story, And where this practitioner and this remediator might be really, really good for this one family, it wouldn't be a great fit for somebody else. And so that's kind of where we come into, that's the concierge part of this, is listening and tailoring a path that's specific to a family.
Yeah. And that's a really good analogy. And it would be the same in the health. And if you're on any forum, you see posts in there all the time saying, what's a good magnesium supplement I can take? What can I take to help me with my hormones? And from my side, it's like, well, that is not just a black and white answer.
That's right.
Because there's a whole entire health history that needs to be factored in. Like, yes, sure, I could say a brand or a supplement, but that is throwing spaghetti at the wall. That might not help you. And to make it more precise to what it is we're doing now, we recently got a question of someone saying, hey, who do you recommend for mold testing? And while that seems like a very cut and dry question that should just have a straight answer, it's not.
Right.
Because I don't know what's going on in your home. Like, you might think, yes, you need mold testing, but why, what's going on, and if you think you might have it in like one area, what else is going on in the home? It would be a disservice for me to say, oh yes, okay, Laura, here, use this for mold testing, but let's just say she had a leak under the sink, right? And she wants to now test to see if there's mold in the cabinets. If someone just goes out and tests that one area, and they're not the right person to look at the whole house, and she thinks, oh, well, I had someone come and test under my sink to see if there was mold, and there's not, so I'm good. That is not a service,
right?
Because there could be other things going on in the home, especially when people are sick, and there are so many more questions to ask, and we have been on the receiving end of getting a partial answer. And it goes back to the very beginning when I was talking about how all the moms would say, why didn't anybody tell me? Or why wasn't this explained to me? Or for this exact scenario, if she were to find out later that it's actually her HVAC system and her whole attic is full of mold, but she only thought it was because of a leak under the sink, and their story goes on, and then it's back to, well, why didn't that person who came in to test for mold look at the other things or no? And why did Holly recommend that person when I needed my whole house to be tested and not just this? And it's like, that's why I can't just say, oh, here.
Yeah, right, exactly.
It's just a total disservice to the person asking. And honestly, like that kind of when I do just give out a name or say, here, use this person, and you don't get what it is, what you were expecting, then that reflects back poorly on me too. For one, not asking more questions and explaining why it matters who you use and what kind of stuff's available. And that is why we're here. That is why we're doing this.
I think a service like this, I know, would have saved my family years of time, tens of thousands of dollars. The things that we did based on what we knew at the time. And I want to actually pause right there and say, we are also still learning. This is an evolving industry. And I would also caution you, if anyone that says I've completely figured this out, they're probably not somebody you want to work with. So there needs to be a lot of humility in this industry. We're still learning. Science and technology is advancing, and we're gathering information as we go. But what I know to be true is if I'd had somebody come and sit with me and listen to what was going on with our family, with my daughter's illness, with where we were at in our home and the capacity we had, it almost makes me ill, honestly, to think of what it would have saved us. And so that's really the idea here is, and as we are not inspectors or remediators, it actually puts us in a really unique position because we're not biased. We don't
have skin in the game.
Right. We can make recommendations for you. We aren't trying to promote anybody out there. And so I think that it's a service that I know would have saved me and something that I'm hopeful to help other families navigate.
Yeah. And along those same lines, like the example of the family that I used at first with the mom was sick and they tested and they found mold in the son's bedroom. This woman had been chronically ill with UTIs and she was near kidney failure at this point. She came to me and she had been working with countless doctors, and no one ever asked her, could you be exposed to mold? Where with every symptom she was presenting with points to a mycotoxin exposure. That's the part that just kills me, like going back to how many years of her life could have been spent healthier or getting better earlier, or prevented her from getting to this point of having to near be on dialysis, and her young child now dealing with all sorts of things. Like, had it just been addressed and asked earlier, it could have saved so much.
Well, and with that said, we also, even to that family, even to that mom that's listening to this right now and is like, oh my gosh, this is me. Like, we only know what we know when we know it. And so we also want to lift shame there that as we learn, we make decisions from that place. And we can all spend a ton of time looking back and shooting on ourselves. But the truth is that we will work with you where you are today, and without any shame about what you should have done differently. That's not the goal here at all. And that's, again, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here, but that is why we want to come in and listen to all of you, all of your story before we make a single recommendation, because we would never want to recommend something that's just going to add pressure or shame or suggest something that you're just not able to do right now. So that's what we're kind of like, what are the boundaries that we're working in here? What are the lanes that we need to stay in with your budget, your time, your capacity, and then we will make a recommendation based on that.
That's really it in a nutshell.
Big old nutshell.
Let's transition a little bit and talk about what it looks like to work with us and hire us. And step one with every single person is always going to be a clarity session. And I will let Laura speak to what that is because she says it so beautifully.
Oh gosh, that's a lot of pressure to say it beautifully. But a clarity session is essentially what we've been talking about, where we come in and we sit with you in your home and we listen. We will facilitate the conversation. This won't just be like, okay, what's going on? There's no pressure. We will come with specific questions, specific things we're looking for, but we want to listen to you. We want to hear what's been happening. We want to hear about what's going on with you physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, financially, regarding all of this. Where are you at? What have you navigated? What are you walking through? We will come in and have that conversation. We will then walk the home with you, or we will kind of have some guided questions and just kind of want to get a little bit of a history of what you've navigated. And in that session, you are going to be heard, you're going to be understood, and we're going to make some initial suggestions and give some initial thoughts and ideas, and help you gain some clarity about what is next. Once we understand you better, then we're going to be able to kind of offer some support and some suggestions of direction for you. So this is specifically for anyone. We do, everyone needs to start here, but this is for the person that's like, I have this information, whether it's 2 things or 100 things, but I have these assumptions or all of this data and I don't know what to do with it. This is for you. We would come in and help kind of navigate that. So that's step 1. Yeah.
So it is a little bit of a spectrum after that first initial clarity call, how we continue to support you from there on. And so the first step is always just reaching out and doing that that clarity session with us, and we go from there.
We go in order, but we can stop at every one. So if a clarity session is all you need, that's great. And then if you want to move to step 2 to get an actual plan moving forward, that's awesome. And if that's where you need to stop. And then from there, the step 3 would be ongoing support. In light of us wanting to meet everyone where they're at, I feel like we've tailored this in a way that most people on most budgets would be able to step in and get some support in some capacity.
Yeah. And we really were very thoughtful in how we packaged this together, especially looking back on like what our own experiences were and what we wish we would have had during a time when we didn't know what to do. And then also building upon the experiences and the feedback of the people that we've worked with already of like what would have been a perfect thing that we could have offered to that person at that time that didn't exist yet because we did not know each other. And so we really did put a lot of thought and consideration into what would be most helpful in meeting the most people.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We will link up our website, which is tulsahomeconcierge.com. There's this part from our website. We don't have it memorized, so Lori's going to.
Back to that nutshell. This is it. Most families in a home health crisis have nowhere to turn that addresses the whole picture. They can hire a mold inspector who gives a report but no roadmap, a contractor who addresses structure but not health, a health coach who addresses the body but not the home, or an interior designer who addresses the space but not the biology. Tulsa Home Concierge is the first team in this market that holds all of it: the body, the nervous system, the built environment, and the path forward. That is the offering. It's good.
I feel like that just put a nice little bow on it.
I think so.
Well, thank you. Reach out for questions or how we can assist you. And we look forward to serving the Tulsa area.
Yes, we do.